Okay, we're into October now. What stage is the market at this year?
The market is very, very similar to most years, as probably everyone is aware. There are highs and lows, probably more seasonalisation in motorcycles than any other automotive sector. This is purely because the vast majority, or quite a sizable portion of the market, is for leisure riders, and as we can see with what's outside at the moment, that people tend not to want to ride when it's raining. So therefore, summer months, nice warm days, light at nights, when people go out and do the leisure. The trade market has been slightly different to retail this year. The problem we've seen for just over 2 years now is exchange rates, particularly the euro-pound exchange rate, has brought people over from Europe to buy used bikes from Britain. Totally the other way around to 12 years ago, when, because of exchange rates, we were going over there to buy. But last couple of years there has been an awful lot of euro buyers. The best guesstimate of how many units have moved abroad is around the 130,000 mark. The big problem we're up against in the bike industry due to that, in the great scheme of things, if you look at cars, vans, lorries, etc., it sounds a very small number. If we actually drill down to the type of bikes they're taking, the larger ones, that on average for the last 2-3 years, new registrations have been around 40,000. So taken in that context, there's 4 years worth of registrations just disappeared out of the country. In one way it's done us a favour, because of the economy and as I said previously, an awful lot of leisure riders out there. The retail market has been depressed. If it wasn't for the fact that an awful lot was going abroad, we would be neck deep in used motorcycles in this country, and quite likely very worthless money-wise per unit, because there was that many. What the consequence of an awful lot going abroad, it's actually kept prices up, and in most cases actually increased them. You can look at a 12-month-old bike, a 24-month-old bike, the same one, and it's actually worth more now as a 2-year-old bike to last year as it was a year-old bike. The effect this has had on trade buying patterns, retail continued the same, summer, winter. The effect it's had on the trade buyer is that it was identified 2 years ago by many that there was, or could possibly be, a shortage, and that a lot were disappearing over the North Sea onto mainland Europe. So trade buyers have actually started to buy bikes earlier for stock next year to try to buy them at a reasonable price. At one stage you could say a fairly predictable pattern in trade buys, and at the end of the day we are making a trade guide, so that's how we come to our prices. At one bit you could look at January-ish, there would start to be an increase in the trade prices. We'd go through the season, get to August, September time, and they would come back down again. And in between you get plateau a little bit, because that's the high season. The consequence of the trade actually buying machines earlier is that the trade buying pattern has moved forward a month or two. So it's not out of sync with retail, but it's moved forward slightly. So we're round in October now, and I'm having conversations with trade buyers, more so than shops. Shops tend to stay a little bit behind because they, to a certain extent, can generate their own used bikes. but the trade buyer, just business to business type buyer, is actually looking at now starting to buy for next season. They'll buy now at a lower price and sit on them for a month, stroke 2 months, and then make a more of a profit, a more of a trade profit going into January and February next year.
And any particular bikes that they're seeking at the moment?
Seeking, probably no. There are lots of the normal type styles of bikes that will, within the next month or so, become more desirable. I think the point worth mentioning more than what's desirable are the styles that are not desirable at the moment. As the population of motorcyclists is getting older, we look back 20-25 years, the average was 20 to 25 year old, it's now 45 year old plus. The type of motorcycle they buy is more easy on the older joint. The sports bikes are very depressed. The sports bike sector is very depressed at the moment, and it has been for quite some time, at least 12 months if not longer, and they are suffering more than the large naked and custom type bike. I think what is worth a mention is the 125 sector. At this moment in time, new registrations, it is 25% of the market. Awful lot of people buying instead of a second car for commuting. Some of the younger people that are coming on obviously have to start on the smaller bike. The big problem in the used market is the type of person that historically buys 125s is usually the type of person that tends not to look after the bike. So even though it's a very large portion of the new market, you look at the used market where a clean, desirable 125 is holding very, very good residuals, but they are difficult to get hold of. If you want me to give you an example of that, I can. You look at the YZF 125, has been the Yamaha small sports learner legal bike, has been very popular new. It was groundbreaking really for its price and style when it first came out 3-4 years ago. One at this moment in time, I've seen two in auction, and I speak to dealers all the time asking their opinion on what they would pay for a good example of one. And if we look at one 2 years old, so 9ish, would still attract a trade price of £2,000 to £2,200 with a sensible dealer margin and some reconditioning thrown in. That particular bike will be retailed for £2,999, keeps it in the price range. That bike at that time in 2009 was £2,995 new. The reason it's holding its money so well, it's currently £4,300, but as I say, a good example will retail for the same as it did when it was new.